Hello there. I am hoping to show you how to fold an origami crane. It's probably the most common and well-known traditional origami model. It's pretty simple once you know the basics. It uses some standard traditional folds and a very common base model. Origami originated in Japan, and it's believed that if you fold 1,000 origami cranes, you are granted a wish, or depending on your version of it, long happy life. I folded 1,000 origami cranes for my wedding to give out to guests, and I fold a lot of them for geocaching and leave them in geocaches that I visit. So these are just a couple that I've had lying around for a while. I tend to fold origami, just kind of keep my hands busy. This is one I probably would have put into a geocache. Yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty good introductory thing. I've got this paper here that's two-sided. It's got this nice metallic sheen to it that I hope the camera picks up, but it makes it easy to tell which side is which. First thing you'll want to do is to fold this in half. And it's important when you're doing origami, especially the more complex the model is, that you take your time and you line everything up. Because if you're off by just a tiny amount, it may not seem like it matters in that particular moment, but it gets amplified as time goes on, and it's harder and harder. Another good thing about this metal paper, is that it holds creases really well, so it's easy to show it. If you're new to folding origami, though, I don't recommend it because it's not super forgiving. Like these kinds of models that just standard origami paper that's pretty cheap. You can find it in most craft shops around here, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's, places like that. You can order it on Amazon. I prefer to go in the store where I can look at it. It's even better if you can find a local shop that does it. But, high fiber count, so that it holds its shape well. Okay, so I've now got a cross pattern here. It's easier to see it this way. And fold it against the grain so the white part is showing here. Bring it right to the corner there. What I like to do is kind of, once I've got like my for sure point there, to bring all this together, is I kind of run my finger down to a safe place, and then gently, again, not forgiving paper, kind of caress it so that it makes a nice fold there. That wasn't quite perfect. You can see a little bit of paper or purple bleeding through there. So these are the kinds of things you got to be careful about. Should be okay in a model like this, but again, if I was doing something more complex, like an insect or some dragon, something like that, that could be costly and cause problems later on. It is pretty cathartic and fun when you do get everything lined up real nice. Okay, got some camera bounce there. I'm sorry, this is a new thing for me, but you'll see that I should have 4 folds going all the way across it, and it kind of makes kind of this concave shape there. So what I want to do is I want to collapse this down. So picking any one of these 4 corners here, I'm going to make it pivot along this fold here. So I want it to come to that point. I bring it down and kind of make these 2 points that were opposite corners of the paper, make them touch. And make sure that you've got a nice smooth line right there. That will help later on. So I bring that all the way up to this point here. And now I want to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Let that one go for a minute. Make sure I've got that down to the point. Make sure that little of the white is showing as possible. Kind of bring this top layer down on top of it. Kind of make the whole transition complete. Then I've got this top layer, and it's important that you're careful up here because that can get kind of crimped, especially with all these sharp angles up here. So you want to kind of caress that down and make sure that that's flattened before you smooth the whole thing out. And you'll see as you do stuff like this where the paper is kind of willing to go where you want it to and where it's fighting you. So start with what is stable and kind of like work your way towards the edges. And that makes it easier. You have a nice base here. So basically it's a quarter size of the paper that we started with. You can look inside and it kind of, you can see all the different layers there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to take this open edge down here where I can see the white, and this part's solid here. I want to fold this open part in to this middle line I have here. I don't know how easy that center fold is to see with this shiny paper, but I'm going to carefully bring this in. And I like to, the furthest from the part that's being folded the most, so this is my farthest point. I want to bring that over first, being careful to kind of line it all up. And if I can get that in the right spot, and be careful you don't fold it too far, that can also be a problem. And you kind of work it down. And there we go. So I've got down to a point here. I've got this all the way up against this middle fold here. I'm going to flatten this out. There we go. And so we're starting to work towards a kite shape. It's also called a kite base. I haven't touched on this yet, but if you didn't know, the two basic folds in origami are valley folds and mountain folds. So a mountain fold, if you think about a mountain, it's a high peak. So that would be if you're folding something kind of like that to make like a mountain shape. And if it's a valley fold, just like a valley, you're kind of folding it in. So this was a mountain fold that we just did there, and kind of brings that into tighter into the center of the paper. Now if I flip it over, because I collapse this down into a quarter shape, I have a symmetrical version of how it was before I did those last two folds. So I'm going to bring this in. I'm keeping everything symmetrical. You can see I've made a small mistake here where I've got some white showing through. When you're doing a lot of these, like 1,000 or so, you get kind of in the groove. That's going to happen from time to time. I wouldn't suggest doing 1,000 of them with this metallic paper. You could, but A, it's a little pricier, and again, B, less forgiving. They do look really nice. I like the finish on them. But if you're using just simple paper, which you can get kits that come with a little more than 1,000 pieces of paper with the purpose of doing 1,000 of them, and they tend to be various shades of the color, so it looks kind of like a rainbow or all the various hues when you're done with that. So now I should have two sides that have these open flaps here come to the center, and you'll see that the way that it's folded, there's like an triangle here. It's kind of isolated from the rest of it. I want to fold the paper along that. So if I bring it down here gently, making sure that I pivot on these corners here, and not so far that I crimp the paper underneath it. And that corner should touch into the center of my line here. Once you feel you've got it pretty well done, flatten that out and open it up. So that creates a little hinge there. And that hinge is going to be helpful in the next part. So this next one is probably the most complicated part of it. And this might be something, if you are following this along and actually want to do it, you might need to watch it more than once if you've never done it before. It's called a double rabbit ear, which It's basically because it's double, because there's two, and rabbit ears because it's going to produce kind of these little flanges over here. So you see what I've done is I'm opening it up. So I'm going to do that again. I have these flaps here. If I bring it open and I lift this part up to expose the white inside, what will happen is I'm hinging on this fold we just made, kind of a guide fold. Now the paper here is going to come in pretty easily because it wants to do that. That's how it was originally folded. But this, we're going against the grain. So this is the part you got to be the most careful with. So you're going to kind of have to gently redirect it against that, the exact opposite. So it's important that you kind of shape these corners here because they're easy to get collapsed and crushed and they don't look so good. So what I want to do here is bring this paper, the color purple you see here, into that line again. Most everything to be symmetrical, we use that middle line as our guidepost. So I'm kind of bringing this corner up here as sharp as I can. I'm working my way down until I get this smoothed out here. So you'll see that I still have this one over here I haven't done that's, you know, folding outwards, and I have this one that's now folded in. So basically you're reversing it. So your mountain fold and your valley fold, those are being reversed. So if I then take this and I do it again over here, again, this part's going to go pretty easily because it wants to do that. It's the top part that I'm more concerned with. Now, I don't know if it was how it started or something I did, but I got a little bit of a nick here. So it's not terrible. It can be shaped and folded in so you don't see that white so much. But like I've said a couple of times, if you're using complex models, those are things you need to be really careful about as they get amplified and don't look so good. But as long as I get that purple part shown, it'll blend in pretty well. So now I've got pretty good diamond shape here. There we go. So it looks like that. How easy that is to see. This other side still looks like it did before, where you had more of a kite shape. So we're going to want to make this one the same as well. Up until the very end, almost everything you do, you're going to do on each side. There's a lot of duplicity to create the symmetry of it. All right, so again, I have the open white part here. Purple part wants to stay down. Bring this corner as best I can. Fold the top, the shiny purple layer in to a point. There we go. That worked out pretty well. I hope my hands aren't covering up too much and you can see what's going on. There's lots of web pages out there that have diagrams of this too that might help if you want to do this to pull up and follow along with. For me, it's kind of hard to slow down and just do it. My fingers just kind of want to naturally make these folds because I don't remember exactly. I folded somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 of these. I tend to do them in batches and for placing out geocaches or giving as presents or something like that. I'm currently doing 1,000 of them that I'm going to hang with fishing line that I think will look pretty cool in my office at work. Okay, so now here I've got this top part here. Our little triangle is still inside. This is all solid up here, but down here you can see that it's separated. And this is going to become our head and our tail of our bird, if you remember here. So you can sort of see it taking shape here. That point there, that's the triangle that we've got. And we're going to just kind of shape these here. So the open part at the bottom, if I take this, and I've got the solid part here, and again, that's open. I'm going to fold this in to that middle separated gap there. Bring it in close. And by folding this in, it's going to be a little bit above this line here, which is just because of all the excess paper. It makes it bridge over a little bit higher, and that's fine. That's still going to help us with these shapes. You can kind of see it there on this finished model. All right, so like before, I want to make sure that the paper has come exactly as far as I wanted to, not too far. Comes to a nice pointed end. And starting at the corner down here, where it's easiest, I want to kind of smooth that up. And that makes it easier for you to get this part right, because you're going from what is correctly folded to the exposed part. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing on this other side here. Bring it into the corner. Those 2 points should be exactly or pretty close to each other. And I just went against what I said I was going to do. Okay, bring this here, work my corner out, and now I'm going to smooth this top part. There we go. So again, symmetry, you should have those 2 kind of narrowed parts of it. You know, by keeping it in tight like this, we're making it to where it'll be easier to fold outward. I flipped it over, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. Okay. Hope I'm keeping this in the camera's view. I'm trying to launch the paper and not the screen. Okay. That points there. All right. Okay. There we go. All right. So it's pretty narrow, pretty skinny at this point, considering we started with a big old square. We're very nearly done. So at this point, I've still got this solid part up here. And down here, I've got these 2 even longer, skinny little pieces. So I'm going to do kind of a crimp fold. So what a crimp fold is where your full inner crimp fold, you're going to kind of open your paper up, and you're going to take the paper that is inside sticking out here and bring it up and crimp it. So there's going to be 2 identical folds in a crimping shape upwards to kind of create the head of it. Bring it right over here so you can kind of see what I'm trying to accomplish here. So you want to do your best to make this even so that it looks nice. So if I shape that into this pretty skinny little piece sticking up there, I don't want it to go all the way in. I want it to be kind of at a 30-degree angle roughly. Kind of artistic decision there. How much you want it to stick up. And you want to gently work the paper out down here so that you've now got it sticking up. And that's going to be the head or the tail. Really, at this point, it could go either way. I flip it over and I do the same thing. And I open it up, hinge upwards. The pivot point is really where the paper comes together there underneath. You can't go any farther, and you don't want it sticking out too low because then your model won't stay upright. Okay. This a little piece of purple or white paper just wants to stick out there. Okay, so bring these 2 guys together. So this is a nice, smooth, solid piece. And that there. And normally what I do once I get to this point is I look at which one of these is better. Which one is, you know, did I not do as good of a job. And since I've got that right there, that little white piece, I'm going to choose that to be the head. I want that part to be folded down and away so you won't see it as much. So one last crimp fold is you pick somewhere along here that looks good. As you can see, it was, I don't know, probably about 40% of the way down when I did the red model. And you're going to, again, open it up here and kind of crimp it down to get that piece that kind of looks like your head. There we go. So I've got the head of my bird here, I've got the tail of my bird here, and I've got these wings. So for the wings, you just kind of hold it at the base and pull this down. It's gonna want to fold at the bottom of that triangle because you've got the paper in here. And there's a couple ways you can do that. Just fold it straight flat down and then work it back up. Some people will take like a pencil or something like that and kind of curl it down. I tend to only do that when I'm doing like flower models, but yeah, so you know, at this point you kind of shape it however you want. paper is pretty pliable, especially when you're using this kind of metal stuff. And, you know, get a little bit artistic with it. But there we go. So that is a origami crane. And this video took much longer than it normally does. And normally I can do these in, I don't know, under a minute because I'm just kind of going on autopilot. But there you go. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, you know, hit me up. There's plenty of resources out there. It's just I have a YouTube channel called Origamifolder, and I figured I should probably put out at least a crane description because that's pretty common and one of the things that I love to do. It's my zen is folding origami. So thanks for watching.